I wondered if you thought that the development of cane sugar and the differences between the sugar was similar to the development of margarine, certainly in the sort of industry reactions of trying to suppress it, and the social aspect of it being sort of seen as a cheap, a low-class food, and how relevant this is today for the next massive developments in food technology that we're facing. Things like how artificial meat will start to be taken up by consumers and the reactions from industry to it, and also the potential of insects as an important foodstuff for the world over the next sort of 50 years. Do you think that we'll still have the same industry objections trying to sort of manoeuvre to stop these things, and a lot of culture a lot of cultural problems of trying to leap over to get these things accepted?
Well, I mean, it's not often as a historian I get asked to make predictions of that sort, but putting...
Well, a few bits of evidence we've got about what might happen.
Yes, I suppose so. I mean, so putting my neck on the line here, I suppose I would say that it does seem to suggest a picture which, in some ways, the work of Alessandro Stanziani confirms for the late 19th century in France, which is that all these sorts of new food products proceed very slowly and by negotiations between different groups of consumers, so that it's quite important to look at the process. I mean, we can't take for granted, certainly, that new foods will be either accepted or rejected. I'm constantly keen on telling my students that one of the really significant things about this is that these sorts of consumers tend to be as scientifically instructed as contemporary sources will allow, which means that they consider themselves to be as expert in areas of scientific and medical knowledge and technology as the people against whom they're fighting, as it were. Now, what's interesting about that is that it suggests that in almost any case where a new food product is being produced, one of the big things that will matter is the source, and another is the way in which it's being presented. So, for example, and a lot of people in the audience working on this sort of area will, I'm sure, bear this out, but anthropologists have looked in detail about why it is that some recommendations for healthy eating are just never accepted, even though people may accept them individually, as it were, but in practice they won't take them on board. And what we're seeing, I think, already from the talks today is that there's a much more complicated process going on, and that it has a lot to do with, say, the packaging of particular products. And I think that does come back to this question of presentation. So in some ways we're stuck with this rather worrying dilemma that as long as food production processes go on in a concealed manner, consumers are going to be faced with certain sorts of knowledge which states would probably rather keep from them, as well as the food industry. So it's not that the food industry is the only demon in this, as it were. It's part of industrialization. It's part of the process of making food on a mass scale, that you can't escape from the need to suppress certain sorts of information if you want it to work efficiently. And I find that rather a dispiriting conclusion, so I'm hoping people will shoot me down. But insects and artificial meat. Yes, so I think that would apply to those. Yes, that they would confront similar problems of as it were, palatability in a kind of cultural sense.